Uh, what do you think ChatGPT cannot do? Sorry, this is not code. This is just theory. Okay, so what do you think ChatGPT cannot do? I think calculating. Sorry, what? Mathematical calculations. It can do some easy ones, right? Okay. Log the menu.
I mean, basically, if you ask GPT a question and if you have a series of tasks in between, and if you refer to this question, then it won't remember the context of it.
Okay. So there's one answer that it doesn't remember the context. So long form sort of reasoning it can't do, right? Anything else? I mean, this is in itself also a lot of things which it cannot do, but anything more interesting? We have heard from previous talks, right, that things like Sudoku solving, you cannot do it with that. You have simple image problems, puzzles, which, usually small kids are very good at. These models cannot. I see. Okay, so he's saying that maybe multiplying or doing some arithmetic operation on 10-digit numbers, right? Oh, by the way, a quick question. How many of you yesterday submitted the your solution to the hackathon? Okay, so did any one of you try to ask GPT-4, how can I do this? Okay. What was the answer? Was it helpful, not helpful? Okay. So mostly the consensus is it was not helpful, right? So maybe after this session, we can ask some sort of LLM or sort of create this agent and see if it can solve the problem which we were discussing yesterday, right, in the hackathon. Okay, so what we are discussing here is autonomous agents. Okay, so what are agents, first of all? Okay, so agents is just a very fancy name for this entire paradigm, which we call as so we sort of create this environment where we say that we'll have something called as autonomous agents, where an agent could be an LLM. And ideally here we are not talking about some basic text capabilities or some any basic capabilities of LLMs, like generating some text or addition or doing some sort of arithmetic things. The action space that we as humans do is actually very vast, right? So for example, a very simple task I think all of us have done. Suppose I want to buy a chair. I'll just go on Google, maybe write a query. I won't write a proper natural language query, right? Because we all know how Google works. It will probably take out all these stop words and everything. So we'll sort of say that, okay, brown chair, less than 5K, some other specification, should have wheels, should have a backrest, should have a neckrest, right? We'll do all sort of things, add these things to the query. And then we'll sort of expect that we'll see some results. We'll browse through those results. If you are doing it on Amazon or some other website, we'll follow the same procedure, right? Once we have the query, we'll end up with some results. We'll go and browse and look at each of these results, right? And then try to decide, okay, maybe this is something that I want. The task is not yet done, right? I'll add it to my cart. I will sort of add some sort of payment mechanism or sort of click, what's it called? The cash on delivery option, right? And then eventually place the order. Oh, maybe add the address, create my user profile if it's not already there, right? Now, the question is, can we do this entire thing with an LLM? Not directly with an LLM, but what we end up with is sort of these autonomous agents, which can help us to do all these types of tasks. Okay. So that is why this entire concept of using or creating these autonomous agents comes in. Okay. So it says that you build agents with LLMs as its core controller. So eventually there are a lot of decision-making tasks which are involved when we are doing this or simulating this buying a chair experience, buying a chair on web, right? So there are a lot of decisions, and we say that the LLM is responsible for sort of taking control, sort of deciding what tasks it needs to do, okay, and sort of also executing these tasks with the help of some other things, which we'll see what it is. Okay, so it says that the capabilities of LLMs extends beyond generating these redundant text, and it can actually be framed as a powerful general problem solver. This is what we have been looking. So you might have heard of the term AGI, right? AGI is coming, artificial general intelligence. So that is actually also the reason why the thing which we'll look into is called auto GPT, right? So we'll go look into it very soon. Okay, so here we have a very rough sketch of what an agent could work and look like. Okay, so you can see there are multiple components. So at the center you have an agent. You could assume this is an LLM, but an LLM by itself is not sufficiently good at everything, right? We already know that it's not very good at arithmetic, right? But we know a calculator is very good at arithmetic. We know we can write Python functions and simulate all these and do all these calculations, right? So maybe what I can do is I can connect an LLM with a tool, and this could be a calendar, this could be a calculator, this could be a code interpreter, this could be anything, right? So now my capability, like the LLM's capabilities sort of enhanced. Then you have something called as memory. So there are some things which I want to retain in my short-term memory. So suppose if I'm buying a chair, I want the LLM to remember that my budget is set at something, some X value, right? I don't want it to forget after browsing every individual item. There could be a long-term memory component. I think some of you might have also seen something similar in ChatGPT, right? Now there is a prompt that, yeah, the memory update thing, right? So whenever, so yesterday, like the other day, I was trying to ask GPT to write me an email. I said, I am a PhD student. Can you help me write this email for this? And it says memory updated that the person is a PhD student. I was like, no, no, I don't want you to remember this. Just go and delete this. Okay. So there are some things which you would want to be stored in our long-term memory. So suppose if I am a content writer or a content generator, I might want to put this specifically in the memory that I am specifically interested in these types of blogs, or, you know, this is the background story of what I want the LM to do. The third dimension is the planning dimension, where a lot of work has been happening. So if you look at it, tools is simple, right? You can write very simple tools for doing different types of tasks, right? This task could be very as simple as browsing through a calendar, right? Because suppose if I ask the LLM key, what day of the week it would be on my birthday in 10 years, maybe it's not as good as maybe a, you know, a actual checking from a calendar, like what the answer is going to be. So it could be as simple as integrating a calendar app with it, or I could also do something more complex, like I could integrate a Google search on it. So suppose if there is a query, I can say that, okay, just search this on Google and give me the answer. When you come to planning, there is a lot of work which says that there are multiple types of things which the LLM can use to sort of plan or do the activity, okay? So suppose when we talked about this case of buying a chair on Amazon, right? So it's not necessarily right that the LLM will get to the correct answer or the intention the first time, right? So you have things like reflection. So similar to how you have COT, right? So you say that, okay, can you do a chain of thought, or can you generate this answer step by step, right? So reflection is along the same lines. Okay, can you reflect on your existing answer? Sometimes you might have seen these examples, right? When the ChatGPT type of models are actually not generating the right answer, you can ask them, can you reflect back on your answer and identify what are the mistakes, right? You have self critics, you have chain of thoughts and sub goal decomposition. Okay, all of these things are there. Okay. How many of you here are aware of Auto GPT? Okay, so a few of you are already aware. Okay, because we don't have a lot of time, I'll ask you guys this thing. What do you prefer? Do you want to install Auto GPT on your own system side by side with me, or would you rather just want to see a demo of how it works? And after that, we also have one more demo of how to sort of simulate a basic agent. What's your preference? It's already on GitHub. I mean, I'm not going to create a new demo. demo on just here. Okay. By the way, just to motivate, like while I was trying to find out like, what Auto GPT can do, I came across this tweet. This person says that Auto GPT was trying to create an app for me and recognize that I don't have these packages, right? So it Googled how to install Node and sort of found a Stack Overflow link, installed it for the user, and then also created the app, right? So it's interesting. At least I was motivated that, okay, I need to know what this is doing or what is behind the scenes running behind this, right? Maybe just a quick look at the logs. I'm not sure. Is it visible? Not readable. Okay, so if you just have a quick look, it will say that, okay, I will use an agent to create a new server using Node.js, something along those lines, right? Then it will say that, okay, this is the command to create a Node.js server that runs an HTML file at this particular thing, okay? Then it says, okay, check if Node.js is installed properly. Then it also sort of queries how to tell if Node.js is installed or not. Then check it on Stack Overflow. There is a link. So it can do all sort of these nice things, which usually how humans will also act, right? So if I don't know if Node.js is installed or not, what do I need? I'll just sort of follow these sort of similar steps, okay? Okay, so just a thing. So Auto GPT is just one of these frameworks. There are a lot of frameworks like Baby AGI. You might have also heard of Agent GPT, Baby Agent GPT, and multiple these variants. So what all these variants do is basically they sort of try to create this environment where you can simulate these agents, and they have all these functionalities. Like, so I don't have to implement a calculator tool from scratch. They'll already have it. I can just import it and use it. So define my agents. Okay. So that's the benefit of using these things. If you look here, this is just a sample agent from AutoGPT, okay? So if you see, there is a user interaction component, there is a file storage thing, right? There is a image generator component, there should be a web search component also. Okay, so all these things are here. So what I have done is I have installed AutoGPT, and the steps are very straightforward. You just go to the GitHub repository of AutoGPT, install it. There is just one command, run.script.sh or something. Okay. And then it might install whatever dependencies you need. And then there is this very simple command that there is a run script which says that start an agent called AutoGPT. Two more things. This might require an OpenAI key, API key. So if you have it, feel free to use it. Otherwise, the connection to the LLM thing might not work, but Google search or things like that will still work, okay? So there is this .env.template, right? I won't show it for long because this is also getting broadcasted on YouTube. But so in the env.template, there is a variable where you can set the OpenAI key, okay? Okay, so let me just do this very simple thing, run agent start AutoGPT. Okay, so it says that agent application started and available on port 8K. So one good thing about AutoGPT is that it already has a sort of a chat interface. So you can just, so the agent which I have created sort of just uses that same chat interface. But what you can also do is you can just use the same thing on the CLI terminal command, ask it to generate your own app. So you can create, your own website using GPT. It will take care of everything. right? From installation, setting up packages and everything, but I'll just use the existing template. Okay. So what should I try here? Maybe some interesting examples that you want to see. Yesterday's problem statement, we'll keep that for the end. I'll try with a simpler task, okay? I want to start an AI startup in the healthcare domain. Everyone is doing it. Let's also try it. Okay, so this is my request. Let us see what's happening. Okay, so meanwhile, while this is processing, let's go back to our backend and see what's happening there. Okay. So the agent has come up with some response. Okay, but I'm just trying to see the logs here. I'll just simulate this again so that I can check the logs again. Okay. Okay. So now you see some sort of API calls, right? There are some already system defined prompts which they have already given, right? So you are a helpful assistant, all those types of things. Okay. It says that you have extensive research and development skills. Don't shy away from writing code to solve a problem. Okay. So these are the set of prompts which have already been given or given in the existing template. Okay. It says that you can leverage all these resources. You can use LLMs, right? You also have these sort of things, which are sort of tasks or tools. So you can open a file, write to file, open a folder, right? All these things. Okay. So now let us start from here, right? So this is where the conversation actually starts. Is it visible? Better now? Okay. So I have the query that I want to start this, whatever query I gave, right? And then the assistant has all these observations. Okay, so the user wants to do this. Then they say that, okay, if you want to do this, I want to understand what is the specific area of interest. Okay, so it's sort of contemplating whatever I have already told it. Okay. So it says, there is also a speak thing. So it says that could you specify which areas in healthcare you want to focus on, right? There is this question. So that is what is getting reflected here again. Okay. So the same thing is coming here, just nicely formatted. That's it. Okay. So it says that I can guide you through some key areas where AI is making impact. But can you just tell me what are your interests? Okay. So maybe let us say drug discovery. So you can see that there are two things here. One is this says send a single message, and then this says enable continuous mode. So in single messaging fashion, you will just send one message. The LLM or the agent will think about something, come up with some task, and then it will ask you, should I go ahead with this or should I try something else? If you send a continuous mode wala fashion, like if you enable this mode, it will sort of start doing things on its own, maybe end up after some 10, 15 steps. Okay, let's try that as well. Okay, so I paused it in between after some steps. So now what is the next step that it has generated? It says that now I will gather some detailed information about launching this thing. Okay. Can you see this, read this text? This says that now my next step is, now my next step is this new command, which is web search. The query is starting an AI startup in drug discovery, key technologies, regulatory requirement, funding, and the number of results that I want is 10. Okay. So now it can just call this sort of tool or this, it has sort of identified this is the next task, and then it will just call this, web search query thing. I just say, okay, go ahead with this, right? And it goes on and on. Maybe we'll come back to it after some time. Okay, let's see what it comes up with. Okay, so what we saw here is AutoGPT, which is sort of this framework which allows you to build these autonomous agents, right? You can import different types of tools, different types of agents, different types of tasks, and sort of simulate this thing. Uh, if you want to build something from more, with more flexibility, there is this library called Crew AI. If you want, you can install it and follow along. Otherwise, we have the outputs and everything here, okay? So Crew AI basically gives you the same functionalities which are already been hard-coded in AutoGPT, okay? So what is Crew AI? It says that it's a framework for orchestrating, role-playing, and autonomous AI agents, okay? We have three things which are central to developing any autonomous agent, right? So you have some sort of agent which we want to do some kind of task. It's not necessarily just one agent, right? So suppose if I want to say review a paper automatically, I can have multiple agents. Each one of them can act as a reviewer. I can have a third agent which will act as a meta reviewer, right? Then there could be multiple other agents. Like even the task of a reviewer, it could be broken down, right? I could have something called a summarizer, which will just summarize the paper. I could have a novelty generator review, right? So it will just focus on the novelty of the paper. So it is up to us entirely, like how do you want to sort of create these agents, okay? Then we have something called as task, and then we have tools. Okay, so we'll come to all of these one by one. So they say that agent is an autonomous unit which is programmed to perform some task, make some decision. And in case if you have multiple agents, it's basically one job is to communicate with other agents. You also have these sort of setups where, so we'll say that one is the main leader sort of agent. So it will just basically coordinate tasks among other subordinate agents. So creating an agent from this Creo AI library, very easy. You can just say from Creo AI import agent, and then let's just see what it needs, right? So it needs an ID, role, goal, string. All these attributes are listed here, okay? Just maybe. It says that role, so this defines what is the agent's function within the Creo, right? So it could be, say, a meta reviewer. It could be a summarizer. It could be, if you are doing some sort of simulating sort of this shopping environment, right? So you can say that it's just a query searcher or a browser or validating the user requirement, something like that, right? What is the goal for that particular agent? All these are natural language descriptions, by the way. So you don't have to specify anything specific. For role, you can just specify a mathematics professor, as simple as that, right? Then you provide some backstory. So this is essentially the context. So suppose if I'm building a reviewing agent environment, I can say that, okay, the backstory is that I'm only trying to review papers in machine learning domain, right? So you have experience in A-star conferences in ML and DL, something like that. You can connect an agent with an LLM. It's optional, okay? You can connect a specific agent with tools. So this could be something as simple as a calculator tool, right? You have some function calling, so you can say, okay, I should call this function how many times, okay, after how many iterations should my actually agent stop going into an infinite loop, all these things, okay. This is a very simple example. I say that, okay, the role is data analyst, goal is to extract some actionable insights, backstory is some more context for it to basically get into the right context and understand what's its task, its task, okay. You can specify some my tools. So you have my tool 1 and my tool 2. These could directly either be imported from Creo AI. You can also use LangChain's tools, or you can create your own tools as well. Okay. So some of the common functionalities like calculator, calendar, web search, these are already there. But if you want to create something very specific, you can just create your own. So you can also set up a prompt template. This is same as what we do when we are providing context. Okay. Next, we have tasks. So task is very simple. I think we all understand what is a task, right? So whenever we want to do something, we want the agent to identify what are the action items which it should do. Okay. So it says that tasks are specific assignments which are completed by these agents. Okay. And they provide all necessarily details for execution, such as description, which is the agent which is sort of responsible for performing that task, right? What So from QAI, I can import agent, task, queue. Okay. I'll sort of use these. Sorry, this is tools. We want tasks. Okay. So we import these agents and tasks from the QAI library. Okay, I have just set up two keys. One is the OpenAI key and the second one is Serper, which is basically sort of an API for doing web search. Okay. So let us define an agent. Okay. So I say that the role is researcher. The goal is to find and summarize the latest AI news. Okay. And then you have the backstory that you are responsible for doing this and this. Okay. Now we can import a predefined search tool, which is called Serper Dev tool. Okay. So if you look here, okay, tool we have not yet discussed. Tool will come to it later. Let us just assume we'll come to this later. Okay, in the next step. I have a queue. So this queue is basically the final execution statement. So you say that this is the environment in which I want to do everything. I say that what are my agents? There is one agent, only one agent which we have defined, which is the research agent. There is one task that we want to do. Okay, so I can say this is the task. Okay, so the task is description, find and summarize latest AI news. What is the expected output? It's a bullet summary list, right? Who is the agent who is responsible for this task? The research agent, which we have already initialized, like what is its goal? What is the backstory of that agent? And then I specify that you should use this search tool. Okay. I specify this task. There could be another task which says that, okay, instead of AI news, I want AI ops news, right? So this is just a different task. What I can do is I can just give these to the QAI, ask it to sort of do these tasks. Let us. Okay, so we have already defined the task here. Let us see. So you can see what is the action? Search the internet, right? Action input, search query. What is my query? Latest AI news in October 2023. This LLM, we have not used actually an LLM here, right? Because we have not connected any LLM here. It will sort of find these links, okay, sort of read what is there. Then it says that, okay, I have gathered several sources, something, search the internet again. And then we finally have these bullet points, okay? So we started off with a very simple task. Summarize these bullet points, which is the news, okay? Now, sometimes we might also want to refer the output of one task to a different task, right? So suppose one task could be just search for popular books, and then the second task could be summarize these books. So what I want is I want to refer this first output to the second task. So this is this thing. So suppose I define a research task one, research task two. So these are just curating different types of news. Then I can define that, okay, there is a new task, which is writing a blog task, right? So I'll say that, okay, description, expected outcome is same. Agent is some writer agent, which we have not yet defined. But the context here is that the output from the two previous tasks, which we have already taken, right? So this will just take the output, which we get from summary of AI news and AI ops news. This will be passed as context, and the writer agent will sort of just summarize these things into a blog. Okay. So now we are done with tasks. We are done with agents. Okay. Now the final thing is tools, right? So tools are basically just to empower your LLMs with doing something, right? So because LLMs cannot be good at everything, we say let's not force them to, sort of do these tasks. We already have good tools which can do use. So Crew AI will allow you to include tools from their own toolkit as well as LangChain tools. Okay. Oh. So QAI has these already available tools, right? So you can see you have a browser-based load tool, CSV search tool, right? Code decode search tool, directory read tool, directory search tool. So these are already available. We can just use them as it is. Is there a calculator? Should be there. Okay. Okay, so now I'm defining this directory read tool, which says that what is the location of this directory? Okay. I have a file tool, I have a search tool, and I have a web search tool. Okay. I'll create an agent which says that market research analyst is the description or the role. What is the goal? The goal is to provide up-to-date market analysis of the AI industry. Okay. And then for this particular agent, because this is defined to just actually do this market research, I say that you use the search and the web wrap tool. Okay. There is another agent which is the content writer agent, right? So we'll say that, okay, you write this sort of whatever we get the output from this, you will use that. Okay. And because this agent is supposed to write, I'll say that, okay, you use the docs tool and the file tool because we eventually want to write these blog posts, right? So it should have access to the files and the directory where we want to save this. Okay. We define two tasks. One is research the latest trends, and then you write an engaging blog post about all this. Okay. You also provide, okay, for this particular task, what is the output file? This is the output file. This final thing, this is actually the part where you will sort of simulate this entire or run this entire chain. Okay. Meanwhile, let us check what happened to this auto GPT. Okay, error occurred. Okay, so not without it error, it's errors, right? So it says that some error occurred. Okay, meanwhile, this is done. So sort of tried to fetch all these search results. Okay, then this is the context. I tried reusing the same input. Okay, so it will sort of also iterate once or twice if it does not work in the first time, right? And finally, we have the markdown here, right? Because I said that write it in a post format. In blog post, I have this new post.md. Okay. Okay, so now it says that, okay, it does this web search. So we have defined the query and the number of results is 10. So, okay, so we have these 10 results. You have the URL, you have this thing. Okay. So now the agent, this is the output from your previous search query, right? Now it says that I will now read through the specific details and form an informative article which outlines the funding and everything. Okay, so now it says that now my next command is read all these web pages. So it will probably try to fetch all these web pages one by one using Beautiful Soup or something, right? Let's see what it does. Okay, so while this is at it, now coming back to the question or the, the problem statement which was given in the hackathon. So suppose now I want to use this autonomous agent kind of architecture and want to do this. So what all do you think I should first think about? Let's maybe start thinking together, right? So we need some agent or agents. We need to define some sort of tasks and some sort of tools, right? So maybe let's start with agents. Or what do you think you want to do first? Tools, tasks? Task first? Okay. So because you said tasks, what task do you think we should start defining? Okay. Do you think there is a step before that which you should maybe incorporate? Taking what, sorry? So I was just asking, so you said that you want to define a task where you want to read the PDF, right? But I'm just asking, could you make your life easier and come up with a different tool or a task or something before you actually start parsing the PDF? Okay, so Pandas AI, what will it do? Because you are talking about Pandas AI, right?
Basically, what we did is we converted PDF to CSV and then the
But you did convert the PDF to CSV, right? How did you do that?
we didn't have to open AI keys under file page for PDF. That was the reason. Otherwise, it has the capability to read PDF pages. But that is they are capable. They are then we after converting the PDF, we use that as a way and then we query directly.
Okay. So what I was thinking is that maybe I'll start with a directory read tool where I'll just dump all the PDFs. In this case, this was just 2 PDFs, right? But ideally, I would start with that. Now, using GPT-4 for this parsing is nice, but suppose if I don't have that functionality, or maybe I'm not even sure how accurate GPT-4 is at reading this type of PDFs, right? Did any one of you encounter this error that the PDF is too long? Maybe could you try again? How did you sort of try to counter that? Split it into pages? Sorry? Okay, so there is one more step which you did, right? Right. So, but instead of that, I could easily use a very simple PDF parser. There are a lot of table parsers or PDF parser tools, right? So, usually what we think is we should just go to GPT-4 and ask it to do it the task, right? It's not always efficient at whatever task, complex task that we might want to do, right? So, usually there are a lot of OCR tools also. So maybe if I had to do it, what I would do is probably sort of create an agent which will sort of download a particular repository. If I'm already aware, nice, but if I'm not, I'll ask it to search, and ask it to sort of just install some parsing library which will parse the PDF into text or whatever format I wanted. It could be an Excel, CSV, or just a simple data frame, store it as a pickle file. Okay, so what next? Suppose we have come to the part where we have parse the PDF, right? And end up with some intermediate data in a Excel or data frame format. What next? So ideally, AutoGPT will do all of these things for you if we just define the right set of tools and tasks, right? So what other tools we might need? We'll need a calculator or a code execution, right? Because we want to sort of perform these arithmetic operations. Anything else? So we'll need some sort of communication to happen between these two modules. What about the queries?
Queries directly, so it is possible. You can ask queries to them. It might process it.
So see, there is just one small thing which I want to point out. So we are discussing all these things, but at the end we just need to define and sort of define these tools. We don't, if we want, we can just tell this type of system that I will have a PDF, and ideally these are the steps that you should follow. Or maybe even if I don't tell it, it might figure it out on its own once these systems are good enough, but I don't think they will be able to do it right away. You guys are free to, sort of try it out and see what happens. But yeah, so when we are trying to identify these tools, one of them is a parser. Then you should have a query parser, which would sort of, convert this natural language query, identify what Pandas AI, I think already does that, right? So you can just have a natural language query and just query it over the data frame. Oh, by the way, no more new submissions now, okay? Now that we have already discussed it. Okay, what was it doing here? It says that I will read this web page. Okay. Okay. Let me just stop here with this thing. And okay, so how do I stop it? It also tells me what is the cost of the API. So it used the 0.3. Oh, acha, this is not visible. So once I do a agent.stop, it tells me the OpenAI session ka cost. So it used like roughly $0.3 to sort of do all these queries, right? Okay, so what else do you want to discuss? This was the only content I had.
Very there. That way we revisited the log. So it was kind of like, was it reasoning kind of thing going on in the log? Because it was that if you gave the query that AI startup have, but it was like ask the user regarding this, then these are the factors that can be considered. So was it a reasoning kind of thing like that?
Yeah, that was a reasoning thing. So I was not doing it actually, right? The
No, you queried it.
I just queried. I just gave the query that I want to start this startup.
Trying to integrate reasoning.
The agent is sort of trying to reason what it should do, what it should plan, or how it should plan specific tasks, what tools it should use so that it can come to basically this end goal of satisfying our query.
And then what's the reason of that query update? That is some chat GPT. Because whenever I query, it kind of summarizes the query in standard form and stores into memory update. So what is the main goal of the thing?
So in this particular case, there was no specific memory component which we discussed, right? But suppose if I am a content writer, and I'll just give a very naive example because we already discussed this content writing part, right? So suppose I write news for the tech section of some blog, right? So maybe what I can do is I can sort of add these prompts or these instructions in the long-term memory that I don't want racist stuff. I don't want biased stuff, right? I don't want some targeting someone specifically. So all these things should ideally go in my long-term memory. I think we also do the same thing in ChatGPT, right? There is a custom prompt which you can sort of define that always be helpful, always be nice. It sort of gives you nice results. So that is the purpose of long-term memory. Short-term memory is mostly focused on a specific session. So if I'm say just for today, I'm doing this new thing, I want to say that, okay, the context is this, but maybe I don't need it every day, every single session, I don't need it. In this specific example did not use any memory component. There are memory components here in AutoGPT, CrewAI, everywhere. You can just sort of find how to.
If it is not any memory, then how it will, if suppose after phase, if I query again, that is giving more ideas regarding start to build it, give me the ideas.
So it depends on how you have created the app, right? So if you sort of say, okay, if I have this long-term memory store, I can say that, okay, whatever ideas I generate in this session, you save it in a database, okay? So it could be any database you can use. So when we start this app or agent again, I can say that, okay, I already have these ideas or any sort of information which is already there in my database, right? So just use that and don't show me the same things again.